Hello everyone, and welcome to another 20-minute strength exercise tutorial. And today we are going through the deadlift. This is the king of all exercises when it comes to developing our posterior chain. So we're thinking about the upper, mid and lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, and even a little bit into the calves. What's great about the deadlift is that it also strengthens our stabilizer muscles, so our muscular belt around our core. Now this isn't just the abdomen, but it's also our spinae erector muscles up each side of the spine. This is really important because not only does it develop our muscular belt to prevent any kind of lower back injury, but it also creates a really nice, strong posture, which helps us through everyday activities like picking stuff off the floor, walking, running, getting up from a seated position, any kind of change of direction. This really is a big exercise when it comes to general strength. I'll show you two variations of the deadlift today. So we're going to be using the resistance band for one, and then any dumbbells or heavy objects that you have lying around the house, you can use it for the other. Totally your preference in terms of what one you choose once you get into the workout. So for the banded deadlift, you're going to place it on the floor, and then I want you to come to a hips width stance on the band so that you have an equal amount of the resistance band each side of you. Now we want to make sure even before the exercise has begun, we're nice and safe. So we're going to bend our knees, tuck our tailbone in order to pick the band up off from the floor and then come to a standing position. That's already kind of like a deadlift in itself, but I want to walk you through a couple of tips to make sure we've got the perfect setup for our deadlift. Now you'll already feel a little bit of resistance in the band. Just make sure it's even on both sides, so one side's not doing more work than the other. Our toes are facing forward. We're maintaining that hips width stance. And then just like we did to pick the band up off the floor, I want you to tuck that tailbone by squeezing the glutes, okay? So imagine you're trying to force the hips forward to make sure we've got that nice neutral pelvis. From here, think about stacking the ribs up above the pelvis, so we're not letting them flare out and we're not caving through our lower back, but we're just thinking of stacking the ribs over the pelvis to create a nice neutral spine. Roll the shoulders back and let them fall naturally, and stay nice and tall, nice and proud through the chest. Now from here, we want a slight bend in the knees because there's going to be a fair amount of bending through the knees. Unlike the RDL where we keep our legs fairly straight, there is actually quite a lot of bend through the knees. But similar to the RDL, we're going to actually start the movement by hinging our hips back and sending the butt towards the back wall. So with our slight bend in the knees, hinge at the hips, sending the butt back. The knees can bend as we travel down towards the floor. You'll see that my upper body is about halfway between upright and parallel to the floor. I'm keeping my tailbone tucked, so I'm not sinking and letting the lower back cave, but keeping that tailbone tucked in to create tension in the glutes. And then once I reach my bottom position, you'll see there's little to no resistance in the bands. And then we're going to drive the floor away through the whole foot, so the toes, midfoot and heel, as we come back to a stand, extending the hips through. There's no need to come to any kind of hyperextension in this position. Just come back to your nice, strong, neutral spine, and that's one rep done. Let's go for a few more just so you can see how it looks. Bending at the knees as we hinge the hips back, coming down to your bottom position, whatever that looks like for you, and then driving the floor away with the whole foot as we come back to a stand through hip extension. One last one. Bend at the knees, hinge at the hips, sending the butt back, and then come back through to a nice strong stand. If you are doing the variation with the band, you can obviously choose a higher resistance band to increase the difficulty, or you can use the same band and simply wrap your hands in the band a little bit more to bring the hands closer towards the feet, and that just reduces the length of the band, increasing the resistance and therefore increasing your level of challenge. That hinge motion is quite a technically difficult movement when it comes to strength training, so definitely don't worry too much if you're not getting it the first time round. but we just want to make sure we're not causing any pain or discomfort or imbalances. So we really want to nail this down. And a really good way of thinking about what a hip hinge actually looks like is imagine you're getting a karate chop at the hip. And what that is going to do is fold your upper body over towards the floor. So instead of folding down and bending through the spine, you're getting that karate chop at the hip, and that's actually sending your butt back rather than any kind of bending through the spine. Okay, so the spine stays fairly neutral, get that karate chop, and the upper body, goes towards the floor that way. As I said, if you don't like doing this with a band, you can definitely do it with a set of dumbbells or just heavy objects you have lying around the house that is going to provide the right level of challenge for you. In this case, I'll demonstrate with my 1.5 litre bottles of water. You're going to come to that same hips width stance with the toes facing forward. You can either hold the weights at your side, which is going to be slightly less load in the lower back and the posterior chain as a whole, or you can bring the weights in front of you. Just putting the weights in front of you is just going to increase the load and the amount of work that the posterior chain has to do because the weight is now out in front. So I'll show you both variations with weights at the side. Remember that karate chop to the hips as you send the butt back, bending at the knees, and then driving the floor away as you come back to a stand. Butt back, spine stays neutral, driving the floor away, keeping that engagement in the glutes. Same again, weights in front of you this time, send the butt back and drive up. Last rep here, send the butt back and drive up. If you have any injuries that prevent you from doing this exercise, or it just feels too uncomfortable or you're not comfortable with the movement itself at this stage, then definitely regress it back. You could just start with body weight, getting used to that hinge motion. You could also try the Romanian deadlift. We've got another exercise tutorial on that particular exercise, which might help you in this instance. Or you can just stick with a squatting movement. We'll have another exercise tutorial for you on this one if you just feel like you're putting too much load in the lower back and you feel like you need more time to get used to that hinge movement. As always, make sure you follow and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with these exercise tutorials. And if you haven't checked out our program already, head over to our website and find out how you can get strong in just 3 20-minute workouts a week. Bye.